about Janice, who was another young lady who came to one of our retreats, and she lost 150 pounds. But I could tell you about scores of other people that needed to lose 10 or 15 pounds just to have their blood work changed so that they no longer had their diabetes and all of that. So you know what? It isn't just about people that are really large. This isn't a Biggest Loser program. We don't yell and scream at people and make them sprint on a treadmill. This is about people embracing healthy activity and realizing that part of their worship and obedience to God is even what they put on their plate. Can you guys gather that? Can you understand that? I used to only think that worship was about my Bible study and my prayer and about how I sang on Sundays. And I began to realize that part of my worship and active obedience to God was even what went on my plate. I'm going to give you a free point that one of the doctors on Fox News gave me. Okay, you guys ready for this? His comment: shop and cook and eat as if you lived in the Garden of Eden. If you do, you'll automatically begin to become healthy. You can have meat. God gave us permission to eat meat. But if you just shop and eat as if you lived in the Garden of Eden, you'll automatically become more healthy. Isn't that simple yet profound? You know? Okay. That's the kind of stuff we talk about all the time. Well, I have to ask you this morning, when we talk about this bridge to a healthy life, how many of you have ever heard the story of the prodigal son? Okay? Prodigal son runs away, lives this wild life, and comes back. And you know what? We often, if you go to your NIV, you can break it down, and then it gets the paragraph where that story is there, and it'll say the story of the lost son or the story of the prodigal son. But the focus of that story really isn't the son. The focus of the story is the loving father. The loving father. I'm here this morning because I'm going to share with you my story of how God brought me across the bridge to a healthy life. But the focus of the story is not Ken. The focus of the story is my loving Heavenly Father who loved me so much, He put me on a crazy game show so that I could have an encounter with Him and He could change my life and my focus of ministry. I like to tell people, God not only loved me, because I used to do this. I'm being really frank. I used to do this thing where I was so thankful, and I was so grateful to God for what He had done. And every day it was like, God, I just thank you so much that you took me on a game show and you changed my life. I thank you so much. And God was appreciative of my grateful heart. But God finally spoke one day, and He said, Ken, you're right. I did bless you. I did bless you so you could go and be a blessing to others. I loved you and changed your life so that you could go and love others and help them change their lives. So God blesses us so that we can be a blessing. All right. Well, when you go on Biggest Loser, they vote you off the island. That's part of the whole process. If you've never watched the show, it's okay. You don't have to worry about it watching it. But they do. You get on this, you're on a contest, realize it's television. They call it reality TV. It is everything but reality. Okay? Most people here are not going to be able to go home and then have the most expensive food that's healthy purchased for you, brought to your house. They show you how to cook it, and then nobody's going to come in, take your computer, your television, your cell phone away, put you in a place where everything is provided, and they give you the best trainers that the money can buy, and all you have to do is eat right, exercise for 6 months. Anybody can lose weight with that, right? Okay. And that's true. But not everybody keeps the weight off. Because unless you really fix the brokenness that's inside, you just gain the weight back. It's the reason a majority of Biggest Losers, when they go off the show, gain their weight back. Because they haven't fixed what's broken. Well, I got voted off, and I went home and I began to watch the show, and I began to realize that everything I'd ever said about God had been edited out of the show, just clipped out. Every time I got on the scale and I said, you know, God's been really with me, my walk of tears has been incredible, and I just want to give praise to God, they just clipped it all out. They clipped a lot of other things too. They clipped sentences so that it sounded like I said one thing when I said exactly the opposite. I remember at one point I said I want to give props to my son, and they edited it, so I want to give props to my trainer. No joke. They edited it, just switch the words around, okay? That's part of television. But I decided I wanted to make a statement in the last episode, the finale, when you walk out and you're all dressed up and they make you look as thin as possible. I mean, literally, they duct tape you into your clothes. Everybody's got girdles on. There's duct tape. My wife didn't believe me until one of the girls who was walking by in the after party raised her hand and her dress shifted over and you could see the duct tape. Okay? They want you to look as thin as possible. And to be very honest, you're on TV. You want to look as thin as possible. You're trying to squeeze every drop of fluid you got in your body out so that you can look as good as possible. Okay? So, I'm in this suit. I'm like, it's so tight. All right? I walk out and you get to greet the camera when they first introduce you. And some people do this, other people do a dance. I won't dance for you this morning. You can thank me later for that. All right? Believe me, I believe I can't dance. All right? So, some people dance, some people do all kinds of crazy things. What I did was I went out and I did this because this was part of my statement. I didn't think they were going to give me an opportunity to give anything to God. And I pointed to my heart, and I pointed to my mouth, and I pointed up. And what I was saying with that action was, from my heart, with my mouth, I will give praise to God who has changed my life. Okay? Now I want to read to you Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. We are going to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. I have to tell you, this scripture means more to me today than it ever did prior to my time on Biggest Loser. In 2008, I almost died. From basically obesity complications. And I had a kidney infection, it went into sepsis, and I almost died. I was away on a prayer retreat. Ended up in the hospital, I didn't know what was happening. Part of sepsis is mental confusion. And I was desperate after that. All of my illnesses compounded. And I all of a sudden was a full-on diabetic. Instead of one small prescription for high blood pressure, now I was on 3. It was just very traumatic for my body physically. And I began to search. One of my friends in the church had lost a bunch of weight. She shared with me what she had done, and she was watching Biggest Loser. So I started watching Biggest Loser. I saw an ad for a recipe that they were telling us about how mashed cauliflower was really good like mashed potatoes. Okay? Now I'm telling you right now, that's a lie. Okay? Mashed cauliflower is not as good as mashed potatoes. All right? Some of you may enjoy mashed cauliflower. More power to you. I will never have mashed cauliflower again. All right? Now I have had pizza dough made out of cauliflower, and that's actually really fantastically good, okay? But not mashed cauliflower, okay? I went to get that recipe. There was an ad for another show with Jillian Michaels called Losing It with Jillian. I clicked on the ad. It took me to a site. I had to join the website to get the application. Now, I had downloaded applications from Survivor and Amazing Race and all these different things. I never filled anything out. I got that application where Jillian's supposed to come to your home, basically yell and scream at you for a week, and then you get a trainer for another year and they help you get healthy. I thought that'd be great for our family. My oldest son told me that he would move out before he would do a show like that. That he said, his words, the woman I'm going to marry would see me on TV looking like that and then I'd never get married. So I threw the application away. And 3 days later, this is what happened. Hey, can I speak to Ken Andrews, please? Hi, this is Ken. Well, Ken, this is Jody Thomas, and I'm one of the casting directors over at Losing It with Jillian, and we saw that you went to our website and joined and downloaded our application, but never completed it, and I wondered why. And you know what I said? Literally, Jody, do you guys call everybody that downloads your application and doesn't fill it out? And you know what our words were? Can you guys live 15 minutes from our headquarters? And we're getting ready to fly people in from all over the country to interview for this. And we thought we might just have a diamond in the rough in our backyard. So we thought we'd just do a call and see. About 40 minutes later, we were invited to do an on-camera interview as a family. So we went down, we did the on-camera interview, and without really realizing it, we were chosen as one of those 10 families to be on Jillian's show. Well, our episode was episode number 8, and her show was canceled before episode number 8. So we had been told to hold this week open. We had taken vacation time. All of a sudden, we just were called about a month before and said, okay, sorry, you guys didn't get chosen. Say love you. Boop. You know, well, Jody all of a sudden didn't have a job. And Jody went to work for Biggest Loser. And they went to cast for season 11, and she said, I know these really great fat people in Pasadena. Okay? NBC already knew us. We had already done on-camera stuff. So we got this phone call. And I'm going to be honest with you, it was depressing. When we got bumped before, I mean, we started eating again and gained more weight. And when they first asked me to try out, Austin and I both said no. No, I don't want to go through that again because they have so many thousands of people trying out that who wants to go through all that process and then just get your hopes up and get told no? The casting producer called me back and said, Ken, if you'll come down and meet with me, I can't guarantee you'll be on the show, but I can guarantee you I will put you into the top 50 teams of people we're considering. Once you're in that team, it'll be up to you in your interviews to sell you and your son to NBC to be chosen. So Austin and I talked about it. We went down for the meeting, and we ended up on the show. Now, I have to tell you, we never did stand in a casting line. We never did mail in a video until after they had already met with us and told us that we had to do a video because everybody has to do a video. So we went home and made the video so that we could say, yeah, here's our video. Okay? It wasn't because we were too good to ask for help. It was really because our self-worth was so low. Why would anybody want us to be on television anyways? So why would we go stand in line for 6 hours to spend 5 minutes with a casting director to just be told no? Why would we mail in a video? Because who would choose us? And God knew. We got a cold call. I don't know of any other Biggest Loser ever that's been on the show that got a call because they didn't complete the application on a website. Seriously, God knew. He knew that our self-worth was so low. He knew that that was the only way it was going to happen. And God loved us so much that he reached out and he did that so that we could help love others and help them on their journey too. Well, we ended up on the show. We go to this one challenge, and I won't go through all the details because, man, it just gets longer and longer. And that's one of the reasons I always have notes, because when you're on a show for 6 months, I could tell you story after story after story. Funny stories. We did our opening challenge, first challenge that we had, the first day we're on. Austin and I did well enough in that challenge. We had the opportunity to choose. We could either stay on the ranch and work out with Bob and Jillian, or we could get 4 weeks of immunity and go to a ranch away, a remote location, with unknown trainers, unfamous trainers. Well, my health was so bad that we decided we should take the immunity because we knew that on television, in television land, 7 days is, 1 week is never really 7 days. It's actually more like 10 to 12 days. So if 4 weeks of immunity is actually going to be 6 weeks of a chance to become healthy without having a chance to be voted off. So we grabbed that. Now, the reason I even mentioned that in the story, Bob and Jillian are famous. They're wealthy. One of them has a home in Malibu. The other one has a home in Beverly Hills in the mountains, mansion. They're on the ranch about 12 to 14 hours a week to help on camera stuff, to train their people on that. Our trainers were poor. Their cabin was 100 yards from my cabin. So at 6 o'clock in the morning when our hike would start, it's Kara at the door. Come on, Ken, time to get up. We're heading out. 6 o'clock, breakfast is at 7:30. Then we have water workout till 10:30, and then we're in the gym to do circuits. Then we have boxing workout, a water workout in the afternoon. Then we get to go to dinner and eat these little tiny helpings of food, okay? And then afterwards, we go do our homework in the gym. Okay, now as somebody who weighed more than 400 pounds most of my life, homework in the gym is never a phrase I had ever said before. Okay? Just didn't exist. All right? As far as I was concerned, the gym was a part of the world that I would never see. So, by 9 o'clock at night, I'm exhausted. And I went to Brett and said, Brett, I got to have some time with God. And the reason is because our first lesson about transformation is that transformation begins with an encounter. The bridge to a healthy life begins with an encounter with God. So I go to Brett, we talk it through. He decides I can walk behind the group on the hikes in the morning, about 100 yards. And I can wear my headset, I can listen to worship, I can listen to my audio Bible, I can pray, I can do whatever I want to do. Just walk behind the group. And I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. So, first day, we go out. Now you got to realize I'm technologically challenged. I had a little iPod shuffle, no screen. All right? My daughter loaded it up with a bunch of music. No one told me you needed playlist. On an iPod shuffle in the first iPod shuffle number 1, it's like everything plays in alphabetical order by group. Every time you turn it on, it starts at the beginning again if you don't have a playlist. So, the group, I forget the name of the group, some rock group that starts with an A. And the music's great to work out to, but it's not worship. It's not what I want to start my walk in the morning to spend time with God with. So I'm having to click the little button on my iPod shuffle to skip through every single song to get to where there's some worship. And I finally come across a song that begins to play. And it's worship. I don't even recognize the song. It was off of the 2010 WOW, W-O-W set. She loaded it up. And this song began to play. I clicked the button to restart it, and this song began to happen. And this is what I heard. It's time for healing, time to move on. It's time to fix what's been broken so long. Time to make right what has been wrong. Time to find my way back to where I belong. There's a wave that's crashing over me, and all I can do is surrender to whatever you're doing inside of me. It feels like chaos, but somehow there's peace. Well, it's hard to surrender to what I can't see, but I'm giving in to something heavenly. And I have to be honest with you, the tears, thank you. The tears begin to just flow. Now, they had set us down the first week, and the producer of the show, J.D. Roth, had said to us, for many of you, the weight of your uncried tears that you carry around is more than your physical weight. And if you will let go of the brokenness, you'll find what you need to maintain the change. I thought he was talking to someone else. That song began to play, the tears began to flow, and then it went into the second verse. And these are the words: time for a milestone, time to begin again, to reevaluate who I really am. Am I doing everything to follow your will, or am I wandering aimlessly over these hills? And I'm on the hills of Malibu. Now, by this point in the song, I'm not just weeping, I'm on my knees in the dirt. And I'm sobbing sobs I can't ever remember a time where I sobbed louder and harder. And you're never alone, especially when you're in a remote location. You're not by yourself. So when you're on the ranch, they have it fenced off and everything. It's a gated ranch. So they let you go for walks there alone. But when we were where we were never alone. So I've got a production assistant behind me. She's on her radio. They called, me and Austin were the brown team. They called us the Grizzly team. Grizzly Bears, right? Because we're big brown shirt guys. And she says on her radio, I got Papa Grizzly and he is having a breakdown. He is having a breakdown. I got to have some help over here. Brett starts to run back from the rest of the group, and I just kind of wave him off. And I just said, no, this is just me and God. Just give me some time, okay? They never made me walk behind the group again, ever. All right? I didn't have the chance to share this part of the story in the first service. You see, this happened every day. So the next day I go out, not expecting to encounter God the same way. I went just to go out and do what I was going to do to have my time with God. And I began to worship again, and I was playing that Wow album, and it wasn't even the same song this time. It was a different song. And God's Spirit fell. And the next day, week after week, month after month, from the middle of October all the way through the end of January, I wept every day. And at first I didn't tell people what was happening because I didn't know. So I knew I was having this time with God, and I was embarrassed because of all the tears. So I'm out there walking the mile on the ranch, and here comes one of the other contestants by, and I'm over by a tree, just going wailing away. And they're like, oh, Ken, it's okay. It's okay, I just got a cramp in my back. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't ready to open up and tell anybody what was actually happening. And what was happening is, God was clearing the brokenness out of my life. I was letting it go day by day. It began with an encounter. It started with that encounter with God. I'll tell you what, there has never been a moment in my life when I have had a greater moment where I can look back and say, from this moment, my day of salvation, there's certain moments in my life when my first day at Bible college, the day I got married, in October of 2010 at the Biggest Loser Ranch near Malibu. God encountered, he broke into my existence, and I will never be the same again, ever. Now that brings me to my second point. We all love the encounter. We do. We love that encounter with God. That when God comes and we realize in our brokenness, in the mess that we've made of our lives, he still embraces us and loves us. In that moment when we realize he loves me in spite of all this mess. That's releasing. That's incredible. But the second one, this is the one we don't necessarily enjoy so much. Now, transformation lesson number 2, transformation is hard work. The bridge to a healthy life begins with an encounter, but it's hard work. We don't like that. What we want is the God makeover instant edition. We want to come to the altar. We want to say, God, I've made my life a mess. You know, me, Lord, I've eaten too much. I've used food to deal with my stress and my pain all my life. And now I need you to help me. And then we want to get up and we want it to all be over. Well, I got to tell you what, I got up, and the next morning I got up, and I had that encounter with God the day before, and I was still fat. There's many of us, there's a reason that Teen Challenge is not a one-day program. It's a reason that it's a year-long program. Transformation is a process. A butterfly doesn't become a butterfly overnight. That caterpillar is in that cocoon for weeks before it becomes a butterfly. And I'm just a good-looking butterfly now. Isn't that great? Don't you just love that? I still feel like a caterpillar. I really do. I'm being honest, okay? But life can be much different, but it's hard work. It's embracing. Now, how hard was it? I'll be honest with you. Physically, I'd never worked so hard in all my life. The first week, I was so sore. In the video we watched when we opened up, there's a point where I'm on all fours and I grab my side and I make a noise. They never made this public, but 6-7 years before, I had had a surgery to repair an abdominal hernia. I actually have a screen in my stomach. I still wear a very tight undershirt that's supporting because I have a large hernia here on my stomach. And the reason is, in that workout, the very first workout, that screen broke free. That's what happened in that moment. So there was a reason why the rest of that season, you never saw me doing planks on the ground, solid on the ground. I could only do it on an incline. I still can only do them on an incline. All right? But I decided at one point that I would rather die than stay the same. I decided that I was not going to continue to exist in the life that I had existed before, and if it meant that I had to go through whatever I had to go through, I was going to change. Transformation's hard work. It was so hard, I couldn't get my hands up. My shoulders were so sore from the first workouts that I couldn't raise my hands up. And when you start working out at 6 in the morning and you go back to your room at 9 at night, everybody there is hoping you're going to shower. All right? You just need a shower. Especially when you've been eating what I've been eating for so long. You're detoxing, and I'm telling you, your sweat smells, you just reek. All right? When you can smell yourself, you know there's a problem. Okay? You know? Okay. Don't look at your neighbor. All right? Okay. All right. So, I'm in the shower. I can't even get my hands to my... So I'm literally squeezing shampoo on the side of the stall and rubbing my head in the shampoo so I can get some shampoo in my head, all right? And you can actually see what happened. It actually it was hard work. But I have to be honest with you, the hardest work wasn't the work in the gym. The hardest work was meeting God every morning and every weekend. More than any other contestant, I met with the psychologist. I decided I was not going to stay the same. I wasn't going to lose a bunch of weight and then regain it. I was going to turn over every stone that needed to be turned so that I could move on from this. This was the last time I was going to deal with it. And I did. Dr. Hogan. He respected my faith. We went for walks every single weekend. And I talked through what the brokenness was. I talked through the tragedy that had happened in my childhood and the person who broke into our home and who had attacked my mom. I worked through it. I dealt with it. And I put it to rest. And I received the healing that God had. And that's that finally. I moved on. You see, running from my past had been destructive to my present. To your present. About Jacob. All right? Jacob has a problem with his brother Esau. He runs from Esau. He's gone for years. He has now 2 wives. He's very wealthy. On his way, as he was running from Esau, he had the Jacob's ladder dream, where the angels were coming down the ladder from heaven. And he woke up and he said, the Spirit of God was here and I knew it not. And at that point he said to the Lord, I will give you 10% of everything you bless me with. He goes away. God blesses him greatly. And now it's time for Jacob to move on from his past. So he starts to go home to face Esau. On the way, he has another encounter with the Lord. And this night, he wrestles all night long with an angel of the Lord. It says that the angel of the Lord touched his hip, and that from then on, Jacob, who now is Israel, He's no longer the same person anymore. He is now Israel. He walked with a limp the rest of his life. When we have that encounter with God and he touches us, we will never walk the same again. I don't walk the same anymore. I used to walk Popeye. Do you remember the character Wimpy on the cartoon Popeye? I was Wimpy. Shoulders shrugged, down, head down, with a sign on my back that said, "Kick me. I'm not worth anything. I'm not even worth enough to go stand in line to ask somebody to help me lose weight." And I'll tell you what happened with me is one of the gentlemen on the show who was not a Christian, not at all a Christian. I couldn't use the language he used. Sandy, I'm out there walking the mile, and Sandy pulls up and in his little sports car, stops next to me and gets out and says, "That's it, Andrews. I'm not going to watch any more of this. Never again am I watching this." I'm like, "What?" And he said, 250,000 people or more tried out for this show this season. 250,000 videotapes came through that office, and they watched every single one of them, and they chose you among 20 people to be on this ranch. So I want you to throw your shoulders back, put your head up, and begin to walk like you're somebody, because you are. And the next time I see you walking around all defeated, doom and gloom, like Eeyore off of Winnie the Pooh, I'm going to hit you with my car. And I decided that moment I was never going to walk the same again, because he was right. Now, I don't walk with my nose so high that if it rains, I'm going to drown. But I walk differently. You know what I realized in that moment? What Sandy was telling me was this: I was a child of God. He chose me. He bought me. He purchased me. I was a child of God. He changed my life. I was worth something. So, that's part of that whole process. I worked hard. But the third transformation lesson is transformation restores and heals. It restores and heals. The bridge to a healthy life begins with an encounter. It is hard work, but it restores and it heals. You know, for the last 20 years of my life, my left knee had ached and hurt all the time. And as I went through the process of losing weight and eating right and being healthy, and then the last 4 years have worked out with the current reigning Mr. America. His name's John Hart. Wonderful, spirit-filled Christian man. 3 times a week. He concentrated on my joints and on my legs. And I'm going to be really honest with you. My left knee is like none of the problem that it used to be, because transformation really does restore and bring healing, even physical healing to my body. My blood sugar, last week we checked it, was 85. I used to be diabetic. Transformation brings healing and restoration. It does physically. Your body will restore itself as you become healthy. But even more so, spiritually and emotionally, you become healthy. You grow in that. And then finally, transformation, it brings freedom. So that bridge to a healthy life, it starts with that encounter with the Lord. It then moves on to hard work. It restores and it heals, and it brings us the greatest level of freedom. So we come to the end of our season on Biggest Loser. And it's an amazing time. And we're there in New Zealand to do extreme sports. So we went river surfing, bungee jumping, crazy things. But the first thing they had us do was they had us do what was called the sky jump. I have a short video I'd like us to watch that deals with that jump and that ability to find freedom. If we could go ahead and show it.
You have the chance to overcome your greatest fear today.
Okay, you need to understand. I don't know that I have any desire to overcome this fear.
Right. Okay. You're like, I'm fine with being afraid.
I don't have any desire.
Ken was not here to face his fear of heights. And I had sympathy for that because I'm really afraid of heights. If you can do this, then I can do this. And I'm so afraid. I really am. And I'm like, I don't care that anybody knows it. As a trainer here on The Biggest Loser, it's like I try to get people to face their fears all the time. And I said, you know what? If you do it, I'll do it. And I was really hoping he would say, no. You know, it's like, are we gonna do this?
I'm gonna try to do this. I'm gonna really try. So I'm gonna do it. I appreciate that you're gonna do it with me. We're gonna do it.
All right, I guess we're gonna do it.
You'll be fine.
I don't feel like it's tight enough. Is it on me?
It's not tight enough yet. I haven't finished. So worst comes to the worst, if you get out there and you can't stand there front on with your arms like this,
Yep.
you can turn around and the guide will hold on to you and you fall off backwards. So you can go backwards if you want to, but you should try to go forwards first.
Why?
Because it's an amazing feeling.
Oh, we're gonna lean forward
I don't
like
care
this?
about an amazing feeling. I'm just doing this for Ken. Why didn't you just say no, we weren't gonna do this?
Okay.
I'm like, why didn't I take the elevator down and meet everybody there? Why am I here?
My heart is racing.
The one thing that Bob fears more than anything on the planet, except aging, is heights. Heights. He fears heights more than anything.
I'll be praying for you.
I'm doing this for you.
In some ways, I hope that he would back out, but I don't think Bob's gonna back out of it.
Is it Bob? It's Bob! Oh my God, it's Bob! Oh my God, I think it's Bob. Doing it.
Oh, wow.
Drop it! Oh my God. You did it! Are you okay?
My knees, it feels like my legs don't want to work right now.
Here you go, Ken. Come on, you can do it.
How you doing now, Ken?
Feeling a bit more nervous than you were on the inside?
Yeah.
No worries.
How could I have found myself in New Zealand, of all places, getting ready to jump off the highest structure in the southern hemisphere? I just don't know if I can do this.
Everyone that comes up feels a little bit nervous. So what's gonna happen, I'm gonna put this one onto the front, just like this.
Okay. Before I ever step onto this steel plank, I'm thinking there was a couple of guys in the group that are too large weight-wise to make this jump, and I'm wishing I was one of them.
Back up.
Here it goes.
Here you go. Come on, Ken.
Right hand, grab that. Left hand over here. Toes on the edge and right here for us, Ken.
Oh my gosh, Ken.
I'm gonna give you a countdown now, Ken. Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go!
This is what Biggest Loser is all about. It's about facing your fears head on and jumping right over them.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. Yes. Oh my gosh.
We did it!
Yeah, baby. Oh, I thought I was gonna die.
You're so awesome, Ken.
It's on a show where I had an encounter with God, and at the end of that, what I called the plank. Now, they called it a platform. Okay, I feel really safe on this platform. I've watched the movies. When you walk off the end of something and you fall, that's a plank, all right? So I was scared to death, all right? Fear of heights was my greatest fear ever. What happened is, at the edge of that plank, I realized that my journey had not been about fear. It had been about trust. I had to trust that the trainers were going to not blow my knee out. I had to trust the medical team was going to keep me alive. By the time my dad was 48, he had already had 2 massive heart attacks, and he never weighed more than 320 pounds. I was 130 pounds bigger than that. I had to trust that they weren't going to make me look like a crazy Pentecostal pastor, that they weren't going to make me look stupid. You know, and you know what I mean? They do. They have those ways on reality TV to make people look dumb. All right? And I realize there are some dumb Christians, okay? But I didn't want to be one of them. In that moment, I told the Lord that I was going to trust him. I would never not trust him again. And then I kind of stumbled off the end. And as I fell, something changed. And so there's the point where you begin to hear me yell, yes, yes, yes. And I didn't realize how thoroughly the change was. You see, prior to that, I had had a fear of failure. I had fear of being in a group at a restaurant. So if I was going to go to a restaurant, I wanted to go to the restaurant beforehand so I could see where I was going to be and what kind of food was there and whether I was going to have a place to sit and all of that. Am I going to sit with the cool people or not the cool people? And 3 days later, after this jump, I'm sitting in a restaurant with a group of people, and I realized, wait a minute, I didn't go through all my rituals of being able to make this work for me. All that stress, all that fear was gone. You see, I faced a fear, and God worked freedom. Now, it's not that fears aren't still there. I still have a little height apprehension. The difference is it doesn't control me. At the end, they asked me if I would go skydiving. My daughter was underage, so they wouldn't let us do the skydiving because of insurance. We did paragliding, and we ran off a cliff at 5,000 feet. And I did that, and it was the coolest thing in the world. So the fears that used to control me no longer control me because I placed my trust in God. If you're on this journey to become healthy, you don't have to do this alone. That's what fit.church is all about. We're here to help people. We want to help you. So I hope that anybody that's here today, you can get the first 30 days for free. We'd love for you to sign up. We'd love to make this journey with you. And you know, with that being said, it's from my heart and with my mouth that I give the glory to God for what he's done in my life. God bless you so much.